Good morning, geometry. So today what we're going to be doing is learning the midpoint and distance formulas. I know that we did a lot of vocab on Friday. Today we're doing the second part of the notes, which is the midpoint formula and the distance formula. The midpoint formula is going to be a lot easier than the distance formula, but both of them are going to continue to come up all throughout the year. I know that there were, like, at the end of Unit 8 last term, which is the last unit, we were using the distance formula, and it was like confusing people because they forgot how to do it, but it does come back again and again. So midpoint formula. The midpoint formula is going to be used to calculate the midpoint of 2 points on a coordinate plane. So to find the midpoint between 2 points, x1 and y1 and x1 or x2, y2, you're going to use this formula, x1 plus x2 over 2, or y1 plus y2 over 2. So to find the midpoint of segment GH, given that G, if you see something like this, by the way, if you see like a letter and then a coordinate, that means that this point G is at the coordinate 7, negative 5, and H, 9, negative 1. So I'm given my 2 points, x1, y1, and x2, y2. So that's going to be the G and the H. So here's my x1, y1. My x2, y2. To find the midpoint of G and H, that is going to be, let's see, x1 plus x2. So x1 plus x2 is 7 plus 9 over 2. Oop. And then the y values, so y1 plus y2. So negative 5 plus negative 1. Instead of plus negative 1, I'm going to say minus 1 over 2. Let's see, 7 plus 9 is 16 over 2. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6 over 2. And 16 over 2 is 8. Negative 6 over 2 is negative 3. Therefore, 8, negative 3 is going to be the midpoint of this segment, GH. So this segment GH has its endpoints at 7, negative 5 and 9, negative 1. So halfway between those 2 points, or the midpoint of that, is going to be 8, negative 3. All right. The second example, find the midpoint of the given line segment. So it has this line segment graphed. I'm just going to determine what the points on this graph are, or the endpoints of this segment are. And then I'm going to use that with my distance formula, or midpoint formula. So this first coordinate is, what is that, negative 3, 4. And the second one is 5, 2. So this will be my x1, y1. My x2, y2. I'm going to plug that into the midpoint formula. So x1 plus x2, so negative 3 plus 5 over 2. And y1 plus y2, so 4 plus 2 over 2. It's basically just the average of the x coordinates and the average of the y coordinates is another way to think of it. So I have negative 3 plus 5 is 2 over 2. 4 plus 2 is 6 over 2, meaning that the midpoint is going to be 2 over 2 is 1, 6 over 2 is 3. So the point 1, 3 right there is the midpoint of this segment. And we can see that it's about halfway between both those points. And we just solved algebraically that it is exactly halfway between both those points. So that's the midpoint formula. Pretty easy. Now let's look at the distance formula. Distance formula also relies on x1, y1, and x2, y2. But this one is going to be finding the length of a segment. So if we have a segment with endpoints x1, y1, and x2, y2, we're going to use this formula, the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So let's plug that in, or let's Let's use this. We want to find the length of this segment GH given the endpoints -4, 1, and 3, -1. So I'm going to have my x1, y1, my x2, y2. So let's see. The distance, if you ever see me write d, that means distance. So distance is going to equal x2 minus x1. So that would be, let's see, x2 is 3, x1 is -4. 3 minus -4 is the same as 3 plus 4 squared plus y2 minus y1. So y2 is -1 minus y1 squared. Let's see, let's simplify some things. So 3 plus 4 is 7 squared plus -1 minus 1 is -2 squared. 7 squared is 49. -2 squared is +4. So the distance is going to be the square root of 53. And if I evaluate the square root of 53 in my calculator, that comes out to 7.280. I like to round things to 3 decimal places, by the way. You know, you can round to 2 decimal places. Please don't round to 1 decimal place unless the assignment says to do so. And today's assignment, I think it actually does say round to 1 decimal place or round to the nearest 10th, which is 1 decimal place. But, you know, unless it says that, round to at least 2 decimal places. But yeah, either of these answers would be acceptable. You could leave it as the square root of 53, or you could leave it as 7.280. Either one is an acceptable answer. But that would be the distance of this segment, the length of that segment. So now I want to find the length of this segment using the distance formula. And this is the same segment that we just saw for that example up there. So I know that it has the endpoints -3, 4, and 5, 2. So I have x1, y1, and x2, y2. So I'm going to plug this into my distance formula. So I have d equals the square root of, let's see, I want to do x2 minus x1, so 5 minus -3, or 5 plus 3 squared, minus, or not minus, plus y2 minus y1, so 2 minus 4 squared. Let's see, 5 plus 3 is 8 squared, plus 2 minus 4 is -2 squared. 8 squared is 64. -2 squared is 4. And that 64 plus 4 is 68. So the distance here is the square root of 68. If we are leaving this as a radical, there's one thing we have to do. This square root of 68, this radical, can be simplified. And I know that in Algebra 1, you guys learned how to simplify radicals like this. So this number, you can split it up. You need to find the largest perfect square that's going to go into 68. In this case, the largest perfect square that goes into 68 is 4. Because, you know, 2 squared is 4. 4 is a perfect square. So I can split that up into the square root of 4. And 4 times, is it 17 equals 68? Yes. So the square root of 4 times the square root of 17, because the square root of 4 times the square root of 17 is the square root of 68. And the square root of 4, I can evaluate that because it's 2. I can't evaluate the square root of 17. So on today's assignment, there are going to be a couple problems that you might encounter that look like this. And if it is a radical that can be split up, that can be simplified more, simplify it. If it's not, don't worry about it, just leave it as a radical. And some of the problems you'll see today will also say leave it as a decimal. But your answer would be 2 square roots of 17, which if you evaluate that in a calculator, that is 8.246. So either of these answers would be acceptable. And that is how you use the distance and the midpoint formulas. Both formulas are going to be very important for the entire class and for today. So today's assignment, let's talk about it, is a delta math assignment. Some of you have delta math accounts, some of you don't. If you already have a delta math account, if you don't know how to get into delta math, or if you forgot your password, let me know, and also let me know who your teacher was last term, so that way your teacher can reset your password. Let me see, I am looking at my delta math right now on my computer. So, hold on. So, if you do know how to get into delta math, or once you are able to get into delta math, you are going to go up to the top right corner where it says Tools, click on Manage Login and Courses, and then once you do, there should be a button at the bottom that says Add Teacher or Access Code. My access code is 872874. 872874. You're going to enter that, and then you guys are going to select whichever block you're in. There should be, if you're in first block, select the one that says 1 geometry H. If you're in fourth block, select the one that says 4 geometry H. And if you don't have a Delta Math account, you're just going to go to deltamath.com and then create an account. Use the same instructions I just told you. Use your personal email or your FCPS email, it doesn't matter. But when it says enter the teacher code, this is the teacher code, and the class code, or the when it says to select the class, you're going to enter whichever class you are in. So please join my Delta Math. If you have a Delta Math account but you don't know what your password is, let me know, message me on Schoology. I will contact your teacher from last term and figure out what your password is or help you reset it. But regardless, that is what you guys are going to be doing today. The Delta Math assignment is 10 problems long and it's just application of the midpoint and distance formulas. So do that, come to my office hours if you guys need any help. But otherwise, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day.